Mishpacha, it's Courtney, America's Jewish mother. I have a confession to make. I've become a tag delinquent. So here's a book haul instead. So I have 10 books that I want to talk to you about that I've purchased within the last couple of weeks. So let's go. So the first two are by Cynthia Ozick, who I have talked about as an underappreciated writer, generally speaking. So this is her novel, Foreign Bodies. It's her most recent, except I know she's coming out with a new book later this year called Antiquities, I believe. But this book was published in 2010. Okay, that can't be her most recent then. It might be her most recent novel, because she's definitely come out with essay collections since then. And as you can tell, this book was previously owned by the Davenport Public Library in Davenport, Iowa. So this is a retelling of Henry James's The Ambassadors. Side fact or relevant fact, Cynthia Ozick was super into Henry James and studied his work and read his work extensively. And her first novel that she ever wrote, which was called Trust, and was a massive tome that took her years to complete and was probably among her least successful books, was modeled largely after Henry James. Anyway. So this is a retelling of Henry James' The Ambassadors, which is apparently the work he considered to be his best, but it is as a photographic negative in which the plot is the same, but the meaning is reversed. At the story's core is Bea Nightingale, a 50-ish divorced school teacher whose life has been on hold during the many years since her brief marriage. When her estranged, difficult brother asks her to leave New York for Paris to retrieve a nephew she barely knows, she becomes entangled in the lives of her brother's family, and even after so long, her ex-husband. Every one of them is irrevocably changed by the events of just a few months in that fateful year. So I feel like I should probably read The Ambassadors before I read this book, so I will get what it is that Cynthia Ozick is doing. But I am looking forward to this, and also to reading Henry James's The Ambassadors, because I did read The Portrait of a Lady last summer and enjoyed that, even though it was not exactly light reading. That's Foreign Bodies. The next Cynthia Ozick book I have is one that I'm so excited to reread. This is The Pagan Rabbi, which is a collection of short stories by Cynthia Ozick. This is, I think, her earliest short story collection. By the way, it has a picture of her on the back. Look how young she is in that picture. Very young Cynthia Ozick. Meanwhile, she's like over 90 now. So, let's see if this has a publication date on it. 1961 this was originally published. So this has The Pagan Rabbi, Envy or Yiddish in America, which is another one of her stories that's quite famous, and a few others, but really those two that I mentioned are probably among her most famous short stories, aside from The Shawl, which is not included in here. But yeah, I love the title story, The Pagan Rabbi. It's so weird. It's super unsettling to me. And Envy or Yiddish in America is also quite good. So I'm definitely looking forward to rereading this, if not later this year, hopefully next year. Pagan Rabbi. Okay, the next few, this one's also another Jewish American writer. So this is Shalom Auslander's Hope, a Tragedy. So I recently talked about Shalom Auslander in my latest Friday Reads video, because I was reading at that point Mother for Dinner, which is Shalom Auslander's most recent book. This was his first novel. It was published in, let's see, should really prepare better for these. This was published in 2012. So I don't want to so I have read this book before, and I don't want to give anything away about it, so I'll just read you the blurb. The rural town of Stockton, New York is famous for nothing. No one was born there, no one died there, nothing of any historical import has at all ever happened there. Which is why Solomon Kugel, fantastic Jewish name by the way, like other urbanites fleeing their past and histories, decided to move his wife and young son there. To begin again, to start anew. But it isn't quite working out that way. Kugel's ailing mother stubbornly holds on to life and won't stop reminiscing about the Nazi concentration camps she never actually suffered through. To complicate matters further, some lunatic is burning down farmhouses just like the one Kugel bought. And one night he discovers history, a living, breathing, thought to be dead specimen of history hiding upstairs in his attic. Bad quickly becomes worse. So yeah, I think this book is hilarious, but I also think it's not a book that's going to appeal to everybody because, again, it is quite dark. So yeah, that's Hope a Tragedy. And again, I don't want to give anything away about it, so I won't say more about it, even though there's definitely more I could say. Okay, so these next two, I went to Barnes & Noble yesterday and just looked around the store. It was incredible, you guys. I mean, it's just been so long since I went to a bookstore and just browsed in the bookstore. So that was awesome. So yeah, I'm like fully vaccinated, good to go. So I went and browsed through Barnes & Noble for about 30 minutes and I only bought 2 books. Do you believe that? It's true. I really only bought 2 books. So those 2 books were, number 1, The Roundhouse by Louise Erdrich. So I read, I think, 4 of Erdrich's novels last year, and would like to read more by her. And I've heard good things about The Roundhouse. It was the National Book Award winner in, let's see if we can figure out what year. This was published in 2012, so I'm guessing it probably won the National Book Award in 2013. This is part of her Justice trilogy, which includes The Plague of Doves, The Roundhouse, and La Rose. Hopefully I'll like this better than I like The Plague of Doves. One Sunday in the spring of 1988, a woman living on a reservation in North Dakota is attacked. The details of the crime are slow to surface because Geraldine Coots is traumatized and reluctant to relive or reveal what happened, either to the police or to her husband Basil and 13-year-old son Joe. In one day, Joe's life is irrevocably transformed. He tries to heal his mother, but she will not leave her bed and slips into an abyss of solitude. Increasingly alone, Joe finds himself thrust prematurely into an adult world for which he is ill-prepared. So, seems like coming-of-age story for Joe there. So hopefully I will like this. I have heard good things about it, including from my former dissertation director. If it has her stamp of approval, well, that's good enough for me. So that's The Roundhouse. I also, at Barnes & Noble, bought Interior Chinatown by Charles Yu, which was the National Book Award winner for this year? Well, last year. Last year's National Book Award winner. So I think a lot of people already know about this book because it's been going around a lot. It's been very popular, but essentially this is written in the form of a screenplay, and it is about a man named Willis Wu. He does not perceive himself as the protagonist in his own life. He's merely generic Asian man. Sometimes he gets to be background Oriental making a weird face, or even disgraced son. But always he is relegated to a prop. Yet every day he leaves his tiny room in a Chinatown SRO and enters the Golden Palace restaurant, where Black and White, a procedural cop show, is in perpetual production. He's a bit player here too, but he dreams of being Kung Fu Guy, the most respected role that anyone who looks like him can attain. Or is it? So yeah, definitely looking forward to read this. And again, I feel like from people who I know and follow on BookTube who have read this, people have liked it. So definitely looking forward to this one. Hopefully I'll get to it later this year. Okay. Several more here. This next one is to fulfill a prompt for the 2021 Reading Women Challenge. I finally got it. If you've been following my channel, this is a book that I identified as one that I couldn't get a hold of and wasn't getting here. So it finally got here a couple weeks ago. This is Annie Zaidi's Prelude to a Riot. This is to fulfill the Reading Women Challenge prompt to read a book that was longlisted for the JCB Prize, which is a prize given to a work of Indian literature. And this is the one that I wanted to read. So I'm definitely excited that it's finally here. In a peaceful southern town amid lush spice plantations, trouble is brewing. In the town live 3 generations of 2 families, one Hindu and the other Muslim, whose lives will be changed forever by the coming violence. At risk are Dada, the aging grandfather who lovingly tends and talks to the plants on his estate, his strong-willed grandchildren Abu and Farida, the newly married Devaki, who cannot fathom the forces that are turning her husband and her father into fanatics, Miriam of the gifted hands who kneads and pounds the fatigued muscles of tourists into submission, and Garuda, the high school teacher who in his own desperate way is trying to impart the truth about the country's history to a classroom of uninterested students. Hashtag relatable. Quietly but surely, the specter of religious intolerance is beginning to haunt the community in the guise of the Self-Respect Forum, whose mission is to divide the town and destroy the delicate balance of respect and cooperation that has existed for hundreds of years. So, that part at the end about the Self-Respect Forum rather reminds me of a book that I read in 2019, maybe, by Bali Jaswal Kaur, maybe is her name, called Erotic Stories for Punjabi Widows, although that's set in London. And obviously it's not exactly the same, but that part of the plot reminds me of that. So yeah, definitely looking forward to reading this. It's quite slim volume, so yeah, I'll be reading this sometime later this year. So that's Prelude to a Riot. And then I also got, on the advice of my friend Taylor, who I knew from graduate school, The Edwardians by Vita Sackville-West. I've never read anything by Vita Sackville-West, but he taught this book and quite liked it. So again, good enough for me. So this says, at 19, Sebastian is a duke and heir to a vast country estate. A deep sense of tradition binds him to his inheritance, though he loathes the social circus he is a part of. Deception, infidelity, and greed hide beneath the glittering surface of good manners. Of course they do. Among the guests at a lavish party are two people who will change Sebastian's life: Lady Roehampton, who will initiate him in the art of love, and Leonard Anquetil, we're going to go with that. A polar explorer who will lead Sebastian and his free-spirited sister Viola to question their destiny. Okay, Sebastian and Viola, those are characters from Shakespeare's Twelfth Night, so I'm guessing this has something to do with Twelfth Night also. So I believe, let's see if I can figure out when this book was originally published. First published in Great Britain by Hogarth Press in 1930. So there you go, this was originally published in 1930, and I believe Margaret Pinard and I are set to do a buddy read of this in July, I'm thinking. I think we said that, Margaret. Whatever, I have it written down somewhere, so eventually we're going to read this book later this year. So, okay, a few more here, and the last three are all poetry. So the first one is How to Be Drawn by Terrance Hayes. This is a book that I became interested, or a collection of poetry I became interested in after I read Terrance Hayes' collection, American Sonnets for My Past and Future Assassin, which I really loved. It was a wild ride. It was kind of like, some of them were kind of like a fever dream, which I actually kind of like in poetry. I don't know why, but yeah, after I read that collection, I was like, I have to read more by Terrance Hayes, so I quickly put like 4 or 5 other collections by him on my Goodreads TBR. So this is one that I have purchased and will definitely be getting to later this year. Yeah, I don't really know anything about it, except I know that Terrance Hayes writes in more sort of experimental forms, and I have flipped through this book and it has interesting features in it, like charts and stuff. Let's see if I can find one. There we go. Chart. So yeah, definitely gonna read this later this year and looking forward to it. Also, poetry, I bought, this has a terrible sticker on it, I'm sorry, Transcript by Heimrad Bäcker. I'm not sure how you pronounce the A with the umlaut over it, so if you know how to pronounce that correctly, please let me know down in the comments below. So I bought this on the recommendation of Mark Nash, I think also Roz at Scallydandling about the books, and maybe also Brian at Bookish. I think all of them maybe read this and spoke quite highly of it. And this is, I believe, found poetry that is taken from documents written by the Nazis during the Holocaust. And that's all I know about it. So I'm sure it's going to be very hard-hitting and not an easy read. So I'll read this when I'm feeling up for it, which I'm not sure when that will be, but hopefully again sometime later this year. And then the last book I have here that's also poetry is Claudia Rankine's Don't Let Me Be Lonely in American Lyrics. So I didn't realize this until after her most recent book, Just Us, An American Conversation, was published, but The book that preceded that, the volume of poetry, Citizen, was actually the second in a sort of loosely connected American trilogy. And this is the first volume. So, of course, then I had to go back and get a copy of Don't Let Me Be Lonely because I loved Citizen. I really loved Just Us, An American Conversation. So I'm looking forward to reading this volume that preceded those two. And this is an oddly shaped book. It's very tall, but also, like, it's also not super wide across, so it's definitely going to look odd on the bookshelf. I might just have to, like, put it in sideways or something on top of other books, which is going to bother me, but I'll figure it out some. Or maybe I'll put it, like, at the end. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. I'll put it at the end. So yeah, looking forward to more Claudia Rankine. We'll certainly get to this sometime this year. Okay, so that's my whole haul. Thank you for watching this. If you have thoughts about any of these books, especially if you've read them and have thoughts about them or think I should prioritize some of them over others, please do let me know that down in the comments below. I hope everyone is doing well and staying healthy. I hope you're doing good reading whatever you're reading. And until next time, would it kill you to call you mother?